G'day shooters, this is the new Lithgow LA102 Outback, and it combines two of Australia's most prominent homegrown shooting products, the Lithgow Arms LA102 centrefire action and the Southern Cross small arms aluminium TSPX chassis, and it creates a rifle that's as rugged and long wearing as the remote country that they've named it for. It's intended to be a hard-working, practical firearm that farmers might carry in their utes, professionals might shoot from a tripod, or serious enthusiasts like me might snipe with over a bipod. All Lithgow had to do to make this new model was forge a short little 46cm or 18-inch barrel, fit it into the well-known action, and then do the deal with Southern Cross for the chassis that the New South Wales-based manufacturer has been producing for some years now. Add a steel 10-round magazine, a muzzle brake, and ship them out. It was an obvious thing to do when Lithgow's management was reinvigorated last year, and it's one of a series of new rifles just released by the factory, and the factory's actually got a lot more coming too. The Southern Cross chassis is machined from billets of 6061 T6 aluminium, which is a very popular grade because it's renowned for its strength and corrosion resistance, and therefore it suits firearm applications very well. It's made up of four main parts. There's the butt assembly, the trigger housing, the forend, and the central chassis inlet to which everything else bolts, including the LA102 receiver. The AR-type pistol grip is screwed on behind the trigger guard, and there's a black anodised adapter which allows the LA105 10-round magazine to be used. The chassis inlet's bedding profile matches the LA102 receiver's round shape at the front, and it contains a recoil lug that's held firmly in place by a pair of clamping screws. The lug engages in a slot in the base of the receiver, just like on Lithgow's other stocks. The rear action screw threads into another little recoil lug that slots into a dovetail at the back of the action. Again, just the same as on the other stocks. It's a solid bedding setup, and if there's any movement in the aluminium due to heat build-up or anything else over firing many shots, it's not noticeable in terms of the accuracy that you get out of this rifle. It's very consistent. The forend has M-lock slots, which accommodate accessories like this bipod, and it can be detached by undoing two bolts at the front, so you don't actually have to take the action out of the chassis just to be screwing M-lock things in place. Removing the action entails disassembling the whole chassis, which isn't a big deal. It only takes a few minutes longer than on a normal rifle, but if you have to do it regularly, yeah, it's just one of those chores that's a little bit more difficult. So it's good that you can just take this off, do these little jobs without having to disassemble the whole thing. If you want to use a sling, there's four cups that accept quick detach sling swivels. One's up front, one's in front of the magazine well, and there's one either side of the butt down low. The TSPX chassis allows adjustment at the butt. Length of pull can be lengthened by using spacers, and it starts at 346mm, which is quite short, and then you can add 5mm spacers. 3 of them are supplied, and I found that was fine. I added 2 of them, and the length of pull for me, with fairly long arms, was spot on. The cheek piece can be raised without tools to get your eye nicely lined up with a scope. The chassis weighs just under 2 kilograms, and the whole rifle with empty magazine and its muzzle brake fitted weighs 4.6 kilos. That's enough to give the Outback stability, both on a rest and when swinging it offhand onto a moving target. It does shoulder and shoot well offhand, despite the impressions you get when you first heft it. In the moment, shooting fairly rapidly at a number of ferrules, the flat base and cold alloy of the forend don't really enter your consciousness, or at least they didn't for mine anyway, and I'd wager that most people would be the same once they're familiar with the rifle. Still, its main purpose is being shot from some kind of rest. I fitted the Magpul bipod, from which I shot really well, both on a bench and on the ground. I also used it clamped onto a tripod, which was effective, and the centre of mass being under the magazine means that when you do clamp it onto a tripod, it wants to fall backwards. It means it's not a problem if you've got a good tripod, but if you've got a lightweight one, it might be a bit of an issue. Between the Outback's weight and the chassis design, felt recoil is significantly reduced. This is actually one of the most docile 308s I've ever shot, whether lying prone with a bipod, on the bench or offhand. I've felt more recoil from poorly designed 6.5 Creedmoor rifles. I can only imagine that if you get this rifle in 243, it'd be just as easy as a 308, and in 6.5 or 223, it'd kick like a kitten. This is a good break because it directs some of the force upwards and reduces muzzle jump by more than 80%. However, the muzzle blast can't be ignored. With the brake attached, it's pretty bad. Without it, The Outback is still louder than a typical 308 with a longer barrel, but it's not too bad. Either way, I wore earmuffs when I was shooting this rifle. Soft kicking rifles are highly preferable to work with thermal and night vision scopes, and that way you've effectively, well, when you're using them, you've effectively got no vision outside the scope's field. So the less jump and the less kick you get, the more likely you are to see the result of your shot and get back on target for a follow-up if it's needed. And besides, who really likes recoil anyway? This is a nice thing to shoot. The LA102 action is the familiar one, now featuring a fluted bolt. On this rifle, I noticed something I hadn't previously. The bolt had a little bit of stiction on closing, but it's the only time I've ever felt stiction in a Lithgow bolt. The LA102 Hunter I had recently didn't have any of it. Otherwise, it's business as usual for the wide-bodied 3-lug bolt and the very strong action with 16mm Picatinny rail on top. Ditto with the trigger, which is fully adjustable. Lithgow triggers are pretty nice. And as I was usually shooting this for a rest or over a bipod, I set it lower than usual with about a 1 kilogram let off and virtually no creep. Backed it right off until it was safe and wouldn't accidentally go off, but so there was no noticeable creep. And it was a delight to use. The barrel is far lighter than on the LA102 crossovers. It tapers within about 9 centimetres of leaving the receiver to a diameter of about 21mm, before slowly tapering down to 17mm at the start of the muzzle thread. The Outback is fed from the standard issue Lithgow steel box magazine. It's an AICS type. It's a narrow double stacker and it feeds like a single stacker. The bolt strips rounds from it easily and chambers them reliably. It doesn't top feed and nor can you drop around into the ejection port and chamber it directly. But with a 10-round magazine you shouldn't need to. The magazine release is great. Pivoting in front of the trigger guard, it can be actuated from either inside or outside the trigger guard by either hand. So whatever position you're shooting from, changing mags is a simple and quick task. Accuracy was good. The Lithgow 308 barrel's 1 in 11 twist stabilises up to about 180 grain bullets really easily. The rifle favoured the lighter 130 grain American Eagles though, and they averaged less than 1 MOA for 5-shot groups. And it reinforces what we know about the LA102, which is that it will live up to its promise of sub-MOA accuracy over 3 shots. We did it over 5 easily. It's safe to bet that you can improve it further with some good hand loads. I did all the tests with 5-shot groups, given the role that this rifle often plays in feral control. It's going to be the sort of rifle that you're going to fire up to 10 shots through the magazine, and even when I went through 10 shots and put a whole mag through, it rarely got much over what you get out of 5 shots. As I said before, shooting offhand is actually quite easy. It might not look like it should be, but this pistol grip chassis comes naturally to the shoulder and shoots really well. More so if you adjust the cheek piece to suit the scope's height so it lines up straight away. And then it's as quick to aim as anything. I did some stalking with it. Obviously I prefer to take a Hunter for a stalk, but the Outback was fine in that role. However, from a vehicle or lying behind a bipod, the Outback was a champion. Its stability enhances your ability to shoot accurately, even at moving targets. The 10-round magazine enables prolonged targeting of mobs of ferals. The limited recoil, the comfortable ergonomics, especially from rest, increase its effectiveness even further. Lithgow's Outback is a tough rifle available in a handy range of calibers, and it's up to heavy-duty work on feral animals. It's definitely a good thing. You can find out more about the details and the specs as well as the accuracy on our website, but it's safe to say this is a good buy if it's the sort of rifle you want.